NFL, what caught your eye? Let's start off with maybe some teams to look to bet, some teams to possibly look to fade in the next couple weeks. Donnie, I know you know the NFL real well. You want to start us off?
I mean, I'll just keep it simple here. We all saw the Sunday Night Football game, the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. You know, impressive, not impressive from both sides of the ball until the Giants get it squared away. And you can't tell me that just adding Odell Beckham back into the offense, it's going to be like a well-oiled machine putting up 30 points. It might be a struggle throughout the season. We've talked about it time and time again. Those sounds like a broken record. You cannot have a statue at quarterback who throws interceptions under siege just about every time he drops back. That's going to be a problem. The one thing, again, I saw, which I really liked out of that football game, the Dallas Cowboys, mobile quarterback, not making mistakes, big-time wide receiver, great running back, fantastic offensive line. That's a recipe for success in the National Football League and also a recipe for success taking it on the road. If we just look at this weekend coming up, you got Dallas and Denver. Dallas going to Denver. Tough environment to play. How do you hold up there? Hold off the pass rush. Don't make mistakes. Keep your team in the ball game. Dallas should have a good week again here. But if you're looking just bet to fade and a team to back, I would go Dallas and the Giants. Overreaction week 1 to 2, yes. But that's where I'm going to sit at this week.
Okay, and Big Man, what are you seeing for overreaction or teams to look at?
To teams to bet on. I don't want to call Donnie out, but the LA Rams. I know they played the Colts week 1, but hey, you know what? They look pretty good, and they're going to get Aaron Donald back here, I believe, this week. So that's obviously going to be a key to their defensive line. Look, Jared Goff looked great. And look, I got to say, look, the Redskins aren't going to put up a ton of pressure to him either. I mean, they're not a very good pass defense either. I know they have Josh Norman, but overall, look, are they going to drop 46 points? No, but I think for right now, I'm going to ride the hot hand in Jared Goff in this offense. They're moving the football and moved it last week. Defense is only going to improve bringing back Aaron Donald. So, yeah, that's kind of an issue one. I don't know how long I'll ride that, but maybe for the next week or two. And look, I don't think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention this. I think for the foreseeable future, the New England Patriots, I mean, I don't want to be that guy that says it, but I mean, look, they're off a loss. They got a great game in front of them here against the New Orleans Saints, who I'd like to talk about in a little bit. Donnie, you and I talked about New Orleans. I just don't think they're a very good football team, to be honest. I think overall the New England Patriots got really embarrassed week 1. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, that was a pretty embarrassing performance. They never lose at home. But you look going forward, I mean, you got the New Orleans this week. Then you face a Texans team that's had problems. And, for the foreseeable future, I'm looking at those two. Kind of chalky in one. But the Rams, I'm going to ride until the wheels fall off, I have a feeling.
Hey, and Big Man, to come at you with the Rams, as far as Jared Goff goes, I've noticed that, especially in this last game, they got him some confidence. He hit his first pass right off the bat. He started to kind of put the ball where it needed to be for really the first time I could see at this level in the NFL for Jared Goff. Do you think it has anything to do with giving him time as far as the offensive line? Obviously, it has something to do with it, but maybe looking to fade him against defensive lines that are going to be able to overpower their offensive line, and he would really struggle in that situation?
Well, sure, and I think any quarterback would, against really good defensive lines. Let's say the Eagles, for instance. I mean, I think a lot of quarterbacks are going to struggle. But you know what, Drew? For me, I like to ride streaks. I like to kind of maybe start one and just kind of see how it goes. I thought that the LA Rams would be in a little bit better situation this year. They had a lot going on last year with their move and with all the things that were going on with their coach. And, they got a new coach, a young coach, an upbeat coach. They have a good defensive coordinator in Wade Phillips, a guy that has been around the block and knows how to coach a defense. Overall, with Goff, I'm going to ride it for right now. Maybe he is a star. Who the hell knows? Maybe this is the reason he was drafted number 1. I still would have took Carson Wentz, but at the end of the day, I'm going to ride it, see how it goes. They did bring in Whitworth from Cincinnati, who I think many kind of liked there. I mean, they made some moves to bring in some linemen. So overall, we'll ride it. Washington does have a decent defensive line. We'll see how it goes. But I think that's a good point you make. But I think a lot of quarterbacks are going to struggle, against a good defensive line.
Yeah, no, you bring up a good point. A lot will, and it's just a matter of how much. But Ian Cameron, let's get you in here. What are you looking teams to bet on, teams to fade? What caught your eye, man?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of week 1, I think just in general, a general thought process is the unders that came in week 1. 10-4-1 to the under in NFL week 1 action. The only game that pushed was really the New Orleans-Minnesota game. I consider that a push because it was 48 for most of the week. It landed right on that number, so it's a push in my mind. But, to me, I don't think this under trend here in week one could be just a 1 week thing. You look at it across the board, I am not sure I've seen offensive line play across the board in the NFL as horrendous, as horrific, as abysmal as I saw last week. You saw guys not being able to pass protect and run block anywhere close to the level that you're supposed to in the National Football League. I think quarterback play, especially with the younger group that has been drafted the last few years, is getting worse, not better in a lot of situations. You look at all the quarterbacks that have flamed out in recent years, E.J. Manuel, Robert Griffin III. I hate to throw my friend Johnny Manziel from Costa Rica under the bus, but I got to do it. Didn't work out for him. There's just a bunch of quarterbacks that haven't been drafted, that have been drafted recently in the NFL, and they just haven't panned out. The younger crop is not getting the job done for the most part. So you combine lackluster quarterback play with porous offensive line play, and we saw it across the board in week one. This was ugly offense, really, from a lot of teams. You look at what Houston did. You look at what Cincinnati did. You look at that inept, pathetic performance from the New York Giants, the G-men on Sunday night. That was about as bad as it can get in terms of offensive execution. Don't just all of a sudden assume that 10-4-1 under run in week one was just a 1 week thing. I think it could continue. I think low-scoring games could continue and could be more predominant, especially when you consider the odds makers didn't just get beaten. They got crushed. They got fucking killed by overs last year. You're going to have to pay a tax for overs in the NFL in the weeks and months to come. And if this low-scoring pedestrian offensive trend from week one continues moving forward, you might still see undervalued.
Donnie, for what Ian is saying, would you say that it's fully the offense has been bad, or would you say, give some credit to these defenses with the scheme going at them?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be the offense or the defense. What I do know is a lot of these football players don't play a lot of football until they hit week one. Can you imagine any walk of life that you have where you're going to say, hey, you know what? We're going to practice. We're not going to do, 2-a-days anymore. It's going to be hot, but we'll keep it short. We'll keep it in the morning. We'll keep most of the teams now staying at their practice facilities, very comfy environment. Game one, you're going to go out for a series in the preseason. Game two, you're going to go out for 2 to 3 series. Game three, in the Eagles' case, you're going to play 1 quarter of football. I believe the stat was 18 total plays that the first team offense was intact before they lined up against the Washington Redskins. That's ridiculous. And now you're going to say, okay, we've only managed ourselves to be about a quarter of football. Now let's go play a full 4 quarters when all guns are blazing out there. It's going to take a while for the offense to catch up. Ian, I think you brought up a good point with the offensive lines. It's the same way. I mean, you're a 320-pound guy. I know you're professional. I know you're working out, you're lifting, but you can't simulate playing 4 full quarters of catching 75 plays and maybe 50 of those. You're going to be in pass protection. You're always going to be behind the edge because the defense comes in at waves. You might have a defensive line come in, and then all of a sudden 2 plays later, a completely new and fresh defensive line comes in. You're not changing your offensive linemen in and out of the game. They're going to stay out there the entire game. I look for that to improve as the weeks go on because you can't help but see in the first week of the NFL season, these teams technically aren't ready to play yet.
No, great point, Donnie. And guys, do you want to bring up anything else that caught your eye from a betting angle that for the next couple weeks to take forward before we break down a couple games this week?
I just want to say one thing, and I'm going to keep preaching this. Actually, 2 things. The Giants' offense sucks. I've said it all summer, and I'm going to keep saying it. It's not any good. They don't have any offensive line. They can't run the ball. And without Odell Beckham, they are dreadful on offense. And I don't know how much he's even going to fix it. Also, New Orleans Saints, I don't think they're very good. I think their defense is just what we know it is, bad. It hasn't improved, and I don't think it's going to. They gave up a ton of yards to the Sam Bradford and the Vikings. Look, I like Bradford. He's always a keen professional, does his hardest, and they work hard. But I don't think he should be throwing for 400-plus yards against a football team. And offensively, this isn't the same team. Donnie, you and I talked about it. Marcus Colston's gone. Joe Horn's gone. I mean, all these big receivers they've had in the past are gone. They don't have anyone anymore. Brandon Cooks is gone. Willie Snead's out.
A lot of weapons.
What do you have there really in that passing game other than Michael Thomas, who I like Gabe's at a point, is going to command a double team. I mean, you just don't have many people there that can beat you. And the run game, you're dealing with an old Adrian Peterson and Mark Ingram, who is just an average football player in the NFL. Drew Brees just doesn't have many weapons anymore. I don't think they're going to be that team that's going to drop 35 points a game anymore. I think they're going to get absolutely run out of the gym on Sunday against New England. I think this is just a bad team. And last year, they were really good in the red zone. We saw week one, they struggled, like many teams, to score points. Might have a little bit more success against the Patriots, but overall, I just don't think they're very good offensive side.
Yeah, and just a pony back. I mean, Jeff, and most of the guys on the roundtable, we were down on the New Orleans Saints, but I do think it's a little bit of an overreaction. I mean, you had to go up to Minnesota, arguably a top 3 defense in the NFL. That's a tough environment. Down a couple guys on the offensive line. They're actually going to catch a breather this week playing against the New England Patriots. Looks like Hightower's not going to go. The Patriots don't have much of a pass rush, so Drew Brees is going to be able to pick his spots there. I think they'll have a good week offensively. Do I think they can win the football game? That's another story. I want to take a look at 2 other teams. If we're looking finally able to catch up on some film work and take a look at some things from an outside view, the Cleveland Browns actually played a competent football game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. There was a key bounce early when the game was 7-7. That Antonio Brown caught a pass over the middle, ended up stretching it for like 40 or 45 yards, which could have been an interception or incomplete pass and maybe change that game. And also, let's not forget the opening drive of that game, a blocked punt for a touchdown. So Pittsburgh, not that impressive, but I actually think Cleveland came out and played a competent football game with a rookie quarterback against a really, really good football team. The second team I want to point out is the Arizona Cardinals. The first quarter of the Detroit game, I don't know how Arizona wasn't up literally 28-0 off the bat. They ended up losing that football game. They lost what I think is their only offensive weapon. The guy they were going to lean on all season long, 25 to 30 touches. He's going to be out until Christmas. Carson Palmer back there is just a shell of his former self. I know they have a very good defense and a competent defense, but that team's in trouble.
Yeah, Donnie, and you bring up Cleveland. I mean, you make a good point. They made a game out of it for sure. So catching as high as what, 9.5 right now at 5 dimes against Baltimore. I know it's on the road, but are you looking to go that way on the Browns?
I mean, you would have to. You've seen division games typically. I mean, again, Cleveland's been really bad for a really long time. So automatically when you see Cleveland on the road at Baltimore, well, I don't know if they can win it. Yes, a rookie's going to make his first career start on the road, but he got baptized under fire against a really good Pittsburgh team and had them in the football game just about the entire way, despite being down right off the bat, which is very hard for a rookie to come back from. I do see a division game, and I would be, if it's right now, I would be leaning towards the point it was Cleveland here because I haven't seen that much out of Baltimore. Baltimore had the game given to them in Cincinnati. We'll see if they can go out and take it versus Cleveland. But right now, if you ask me, I would be leaning towards the points with Cleveland here.
Yeah, I agree with you. Anytime you're getting over a touchdown in the NFL, it definitely catches my eye. Guys, feel free to chime in with any other ideas you want to get into as we're breaking down a couple games in the NFL. But let's start off with the Thursday nighter, 101-102, Houston, Cincinnati. Looks like a pretty low total here, guys. Under 40, sitting at pretty much 38 across the board. Cincinnati laying 6.5. I don't see any 7s. Interesting to see if a full touchdown will pop up. But Ian Cameron, you want to start us off on this Thursday nighter? Which way you're looking to go?
I wouldn't be betting it over, even at 38, not even maybe. We're talking about a situation here where you've got 2 teams that are like mirror images of each other right now. They've got quarterback issues. Their offensive line can't protect worth a damn right now, at least based on what we saw in week 1. I mean, that Houston offensive line was completely chewed up and spit out by Jacksonville throughout the game. What, 10 sacks they had? Unbelievable job by Jacksonville, but a horrendous job by that Texans offensive line. Same problems with the Bengals offensive line. How many times did I say during our NFL previews about that Cincy offensive line? I don't like it. I don't like the situation. They were a mediocre at best offensive line last year that's now down. Whitworth and Zeitler, 2 key cogs from that line, are gone from last year's squad. And it hasn't been the same group whatsoever. And Andy Dalton, by the way, last year when under pressure, 9.6. Is that good? No, it ain't. I don't trust him under pressure with a mediocre offensive line. I just don't. And it's a situation here where if you're not going to get good play in the trenches and you're not one of these quarterbacks that is absolutely phenomenal at mobility and, you know, just making things happen and just that ingenuity of being able to engineer something when there's nothing there. I don't see Andy Dalton as a guy that can do that. Now, the question is, Houston's already made that announcement, guys. Deshaun Watson likely going to be the starter for the Texans in this game. And yeah, he's got more mobility than Tom Savage. I understand that. But we're still talking about a guy that's had limited practice, if any, this week, leading up to this game, now going on the road behind a very, very sketchy offensive line. I can't envision Deshaun Watson, even though I think he's got potential to be maybe a solid NFL quarterback down the road. I don't envision him going up and down the field here against Cincinnati's defense, which, is at least still pretty good. They are the Bengals on that side of the football. That wasn't the issue for them last week. They pretty much put the clamps down on Flacco and the Ravens. They were not really a ton of big plays being made by that Baltimore offense. It was Cincinnati's offense that was holding them down and holding them back in that football game. So I understand this total is very low for NFL. I mean, 38, that's not a lot of value. That's not a lot of wiggle room, but the under's still the only way I could play it.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at baseball and it gets to 6.5, 6 as the total, that there's a reason for that. And I know Donnie is a big value better. Donnie, do you have any disagreement with what Ian said?
No, I mean, Thursday Night Football, but you had a Thursday Night Football last week, and there was a high-scoring game, but that's not really a true Thursday Night Football game. Both teams came in well-rested, obviously being game one. This turns out to be the first true test because you have two teams that are reeling, but again, you don't have a lot of adjustment time. And in the NFL, it's a what have you done for me lately league. 0-2, you've seen the statistics out there. If you go 0-2, you're a dead man walking football team. Everybody's job's on the line. GM's getting pressure from the owner. The fans are in an uproar. You can't go 0-2. The problem with this game is somebody's going to end up 0-2 regardless of who wins this football game. The one thing I don't like is Watson's going to go on the road. I like his hustle. He gave a spark to the Houston team. But again, you're talking about, I'm going to bring up the same concepts on Thursday Night Football. If you played on Sunday, you rest up on Monday. Tuesday's an NFLPA, mandatory day off where you're allowed to come in on a Thursday, but you're not going to practice. Wednesday, they're in T-shirts and shorts running around, and then they're going to get on a plane and they're going to travel and play on a Thursday night where you have the distinct advantage of Cincinnati. Cincinnati's been there, done that. They have a veteran quarterback. Yeah, he sucked last week, but hopefully it doesn't continue both weeks. Overall, I like Cincinnati in the spot. I don't know about the over-under. I would lean towards the under as well, just because of what I saw from the first game. And both of these teams, they're not coming out guns blazing here. They're going to take a look-see approach. Don't make a mistake. Maybe the other team makes a mistake. So I agree with Ian. The under is probably the play here just because of the way football tends to play on a Thursday night with short preparation time, a lot of banged up bodies and injuries. But I would lean towards Cincinnati winning this football game just by the overall optics of it being home. You have the veteran quarterback back there. Rookie's going to make his first start on the road, his first career start. I just think it adds up to Cincinnati. And I agree with that line movement because I know it opened up, 5.5, currently sitting at 6.5 across the board. I agree there. Yeah,
great point, Donnie, with the last week's Thursday night being high scoring, it not really being a true Thursday night with all the extra preparation time. I thought that was a great point. BMOC, any differing opinion? Are you also leaning towards the Bengals?
One thing I wanted,
Go ahead.
I was just saying, are you also looking towards the 6.5 with the Bengals?
I was going to say, let Ian have his opinion. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention, guys, about this situation. This is reprehensible as far as I'm concerned, decision-making by Bill O'Brien. Why on earth are you going to Deshaun Watson now instead of before week one? I mean, I know Savage was awful, but why are you making Watson have his first start in this spot on the road, short week, no practice time, or hardly any, if any, in this kind of situation? That's just setting this poor kid up, Deshaun Watson, maybe in a tough spot to make his first start on the road. You got to be better than that in terms of decision-making and managing this roster if you're Bill O'Brien. This is absolutely piss poor by him. I hope Watson plays well. Wish him all the best, but you're setting him up in a very, very tough, difficult, and tenable situation as far as I'm concerned. Bad job by Bill O'Brien, but I'm not shocked by him when what he does.
Yeah, I will disagree with both these guys. I think the game goes over. I think it's like a 27-14 type of game. I don't think that Houston will do a ton offensively, but I think with the injection of Deshaun Watson, a guy who I think is a pretty good competitor, I think he's going to take Ian's point and kind of say, well, you know what? I'm going to go out here and ball out. This is what I do. I have some good receivers. I have an okay run game. I'm going to go and ball out because we didn't play well in week one and we don't want to go 0-2 like Donnie said. I don't know if they'll be great in succeeding. I think they'll put up 10 to 17 points, something like that. I think Cincinnati's due here. I mean, they played as bad as they could in week one. They had plenty of offensive weapons as well. And I do think there's going to be some short field position for some of these teams. We both mentioned, all of us, that their offensive lines, both these offensive lines are very suspect. I mean, would anyone be surprised if J.J. Watt or someone like that comes in and gets their hand on a football and takes one back? I think we see a quick 1 or 2 scores here. Maybe really kind of set that total up. I mean, you're working with a 38-point total. I mean, that's That's close to being a preseason number. And preseason number is like 36. I just think there's a little bit of an overreaction. These are two teams that do have some weapons. Both are really need to score points and win. I think this is like a 27-17, 27-14 kind of game. I think it'll just get up and over the total personally, but we'll see how it goes.
Hopefully DeAndre Hopkins gets rid of the butterfingers. That was terrible last week. He dropped so many passes that he usually catches. I don't know if his brain was in that football game, but he was awful. He's got to be better than that.
Agreed. Guys, let's get into another night game, the Sunday night game, 287, 288. We got the Packers traveling to Atlanta. Playoff matchup replay from last year. We got a total 53.5, and it looks like Atlanta – -2.5, -3. This is one to shop around. Use SBR odds right now. Looks like 5 dimes at 2.5. We got Bookmaker at 3. Bet Online and Bovada also at 3. So make sure. Obviously, we know that's a really important half point. So make sure to shop around. Use SBR odds for that. And guys, Donnie, you want to start us off with this Green Bay Atlanta matchup?
Really looking forward to it. Enjoyed the game last year. I mean, Atlanta was high rolling at that point. Green Bay was really banged up heading into that football game. It was basically Aaron Rodgers out there just trying to make some, things happen with backup tight ends, backup wide receivers. If we get back into this game as a whole, I still actually like the Atlanta Falcons, similar to the game last year in the playoffs that they played. It's going to be an interesting environment. The new stadium there, you're going to open it up on a Sunday night football game. The crowd's going to be loud, but, caution that as well. We saw some emotional games with Houston where they got taken to task. I also saw an emotional game in Philadelphia in 2003 when they opened up Lincoln Financial Field on Monday Night Football in a rematch for the Buccaneers and got their ass handed to them. So it doesn't always matter if everybody's excited. It's a new stadium. That wears off after the first, kickoff, the first hit, whatever it would be. But I like Atlanta here as a home team, fast track. I do want to take a little bit out of the Green Bay game. They played well last week. That's a tough defense, Seattle, to go up against week 1, especially when you're a little bit banged up on the offensive line. I thought Aaron Rodgers was Aaron Rodgers, but it did seem to favor that calf a little bit, getting stepped on, maybe a little ankle injury. This is going to be a fast turf. I think that really plays to Atlanta's advantage. If I'm looking at this game on a whole right now without capping it thoroughly, I'm going to lean on the home team here, Atlanta, especially if that line's going to be -2.5. I think it's cheap. I think Atlanta's going to be excited for this football game. Escaped week 1, can take a breather. And again, if you're Green Bay, you're going into Atlanta. I mean, I don't want to say you're going in with house money, but you won first week against a really tough Seattle football team. No shame in going on the road and losing in that environment and going back home and, trying to take care of business. So I would lean Atlanta in this situation.
Yeah, big man. It's Atlanta, first home game of the year in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Also, any opinion on the total? I think that looks a little low. Do you?
Well, I do want to dispel of a rumor and a myth, and we have to stop with this crap in this business. Stop bringing up emotional advantage in the NFL. It doesn't mean anything. Stop bringing it up. Nobody cares about emotion or momentum. Stop bringing that up. These are professionals to get paid to go out and play football. They don't stop. Fans care about that stuff. The teams don't. Okay. There are very few opportunities where they care about it. In college, definitely, because you have kids you're dealing with, kids that go to a dorm room and that's where they sleep. They don't have millions of dollars. They don't have a driver. They don't have a bling bling and an Escalade. They don't have that. Stop with them. Donnie, you agree. Stop with the momentum and emotion crap. It doesn't. Yeah,
I mean, we've all played football, and I always like to use the adjective being a wide receiver. You get real excited for the game. I run a 15-yard out, and it feels like I'm already spent for the game, even though I have about 70 more plays to go. Emotion doesn't carry that far. And again, you're right in the NFL, Jeff. Check clears on Tuesday morning. That's all they care about most of the time.
Yeah, and again, I mean, there are a few certain instances where it might, maybe for one certain player, but at the end of the day, we as people care initially, and then we move on, okay? It doesn't – in certain instances, I actually did mention it. I think there's certain teams that need to win. That's different than saying, I think this team emotionally is going to win because they have this or they have. Sometimes I do think teams have to win, and I think that's important. Sometimes the coach has to light a fire under their ass. But do I think it matters that they're opening a new stadium here? Like, okay, it's cool. It's going to be cool for the, for the fans and stuff. But overall, I like Atlanta. I'll agree with Donnie. I like their defense. I think their front seven's really solid. I think that overall, Matt Ryan is a competitor. I think he's going to want to come out here and, again, take his team to 2-0. I do agree with Donnie that I don't think it's a terrible loss here if you go on the road and lose to Green Bay. I just think overall I wasn't that impressed last week with Green Bay. I know they were facing Seattle and everything, but overall, I don't have a ton on this game. I didn't look that much into it just yet. We will a little bit later, but overall, I agree with Donnie. I think this is kind of a low number. I'm not sure that I'm ready to anoint. I mean, was Green Bay's defense that good, Donnie, or was Seattle's offense just not that good?
No, Seattle's offensive line is a train wreck. But again, you're looking at opening day. Green Bay is a healthy defense right now. They're going to be able to get after the quarterback. You're playing at home. It's very hard just to beat Green Bay and Green Bay. So I don't even fault Seattle. I really liked Green Bay in that situation all season. Came through, with an easy cover in that one. But this is a little bit different type of an environment. They're going to be, track meet style. Atlanta's offense healthy for this one. I think they have enough firepower to get through Green Bay, even though it's really hard to beat Aaron Rodgers wherever he's at. But you're not asking him to cover 7, Jeff. You're not asking him to cover 10. Just give me the field goal winner at home on Sunday Night Football. I think they get it done here.
Yeah, in terms of this game, I'm going to look under the total, actually. I think there's actually value under the total. I actually took a little Bears-Falcons under last week. Look, Atlanta's offense is very, very good still. I'm not convinced that they are great to the extent that they were last year, and it's all because of the Kyle Shanahan factor. I think Steve Sarkisian's just not going to be able to scheme up, game plan, and call plays to the high level that we saw from Shanahan, who put forth one of the better coordinating seasons I've seen from the offensive side of the football. Still obviously have a ton of talent with Ryan, with great receivers, with great running backs. No question about that. Good offensive line. But this is now, to me, a very good, not a great offense. And I think this Atlanta defense is improved. You look at Vic Beasley, they're going to be in company, going to be able to get a pass rush, I think, against Green Bay. Let's not forget the Packers offensive line, another offensive line that was very suspect last week. They had Aaron Rodgers basically scrambling on more than one occasion in that game against Seattle last week. So I think Atlanta's defense is going to make it tough on Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers to move the football and finish drives with touchdowns, particularly on the road. And I think because Atlanta's offense was just so dynamic, so powerful, so explosive last year, you've got residual value in the totals now early on with the Falcons here to look under, when I'm convinced that offense is just not quite what they were last year while their defense has improved. So actually, I'm going to look under the total in this game.
All right, Ian, respect it. Some differing opinion for sure. And guys, just real quick, BMOC and Donnie mostly, I know you guys are into the Eagles. What about KC, the Chiefs, looking good on Thursday night, now coming back? I kind of think this is a short number, -5 at home versus Philly. Am I wrong here? Do you guys think the Eagles are the way to look here and they keep it close?
Go ahead, Donnie.
Go ahead, Jeff. I'll go first on this one. Yeah, taking a look at it on its whole, I actually would have liked the game much better if the Eagles would have lost to Washington, being as you can't get down 0-2. It's already a tough environment to go play in Kansas City, one of the loudest stadiums in the NFL. Andy Reid is a good coach. He doesn't win the big game, but he's a very good regular season coach. And also, let's keep in mind, they had that mini bye, same way New England does playing versus New Orleans. That's a big advantage, especially for Andy Reid, who's very good at preparation. I don't know what to make of Kansas City just yet. Losing Eric Berry was big. The Eagles have a lot of firepower, a lot of weapons. How do you, combat a good offense or a steady offense? Get some pressure on it. The front seven for the Eagles is going to get after that team with Alex Smith. I think he goes back to more of his dinking and dunking. It's interesting. I do agree with the line movement going from about 4.5 to 5 as a home favorite. I think that would have went into reverse if the Eagles had lost somehow in Washington. But whether or not Kansas City won that opening game really doesn't change my thing. You have to win. You have to win at home in the Football League, National Football League. Kansas City is a very good home team, but I do agree. I actually think Kansas City is going to get the job done. I don't think they run away from the Eagles, no. So if you're asking me to take this game down, say you're going to get 5 points, I would lean towards the Eagles getting 5 points here, but I do think Kansas City is going to win this football game.
Yeah, I think week to week with the Eagles, there's two things you have to look out for. It's how long will this patchwork secondary work? Because look, I mean, your starting corners are Patrick Robinson and Jalen Mills. Okay, they've done good enough, but losing Ronald Darby was big. That's concerning. Luckily, he's not out for a long, extended year or anything, but for 5 or 6 weeks, they're going to have some trouble. Not a great receiving core here. I guess they're better than we thought. And also overall, is Doug Peterson going to find ways to lose the football game? He does dumb things. He does things that most coaches don't do. Kind of a problem that we had with Andy Reid as well. His time management was terrible. You're really looking at two coaches that make a lot of mistakes during the football game. So look out for that during it. But Doug Peterson has to clean up some of the play calls that he's making that really could be destructive disruptive if the ball bounces a different way. And, we saw it in week 1. I mean, you throw an out route to Nelson Aguilar, no one blocks him, and or he fumbles or something like that. You can't continue to shot momentum out here. I mean, with this team, when you go down and score a touchdown, you get the ball back after 3 and out. And those are the kind of plays you're doing at the 30-yard line, going into, even at worst, get a field goal. It's just stupid things you can't do, going for 2 when you shouldn't, or not kicking a field goal when you should. Doug Peterson needs to clean that up. But overall, I like their defensive line. I think they're going to be destructive all year. I'm just a little concerned about their secondary. But, hey, going on the road here, pupil versus teacher, I want to say the Eagles can win because I think the Chiefs, I don't know how good they really are. I just think New England just kind of had a bad game. We'll see, though. Kareem Hunt's going to be a tough stop all year, but if any defensive line can do it, I think it's the Eagles. Shut him down.
BMOC, what about Kareem Hunt running up and down the field, the old Toledo Rocket there? Did that bring a smile to your face?
How about that?
Yeah, that's great stuff.
I think a lot of us that are real big college football guys, we saw that and we're happy. It's always nice to see a MAC player, a Sun Belt player. I saw Tariq Cohen, the kid out of North Carolina A&T. It's always nice to see those kids get their due because we all know how hard they work. We all know that it's so difficult to get to the NFL. They're not the best players in the world, but they work hard and they get there. And it's cool. It's cool to see them get to that point and just ball the fuck out. I mean, it's great. I love it. I know all of us are big fans of the small schools.
Yeah, I find myself rooting for him too, big man. Absolutely, man. Hey, and guys, just want to remind you, if you haven't signed up for Beat the Bag contest, $25,000 in prizes going out. It's free to enter. Check that out on SBR Picks. Also, if you like the content here on the Roundtable, please give us a thumbs up, a like on the button. We're going to hit on MLB, a little CFL, and then get into college football action. Also, best bets to come. So